Thanks for listening to FYI Stillwater, where you will hear information about your local government you didn't know you need to know, straight from the source. Be sure to check out other news and information from the City of Stillwater at stillwater.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter. Hi, I'm your host, Sherry Fletcher, Director of Marketing and Civic Engagement. Today, my co-host is Assistant City Manager Paula Dennison. Hey, Paula.
How you doing, Sherry?
I'm doing pretty good. You?
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Liking this weather.
You are? Are you
well,
like the fall
weather? I liked it better last week than this week. It's getting hot out there now.
See, I'm all for summer.
You're a summer girl.
I want it summer year-round. I don't mind fall, but I kind of like the heat, the sun, the heat on the skin.
Yes,
that's
you
my
do.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, not me. I'll take fall.
You're a fall girl.
I'm a fall year round. Yeah.
All right. So what are we talking about today, Paula?
Well, today our guest is Jason Tyler. He is the superintendent of the wastewater treatment plant, lovingly referred to as WWTP.
Lovingly.
Yeah. Well, you have to come up with loving words for some of the stuff that flows through the wastewater treatment plant. So
we'll discuss that.
Yes, we will. Just a couple of things about it. Jason and his team are responsible for the proper treatment and disposal of all of the wastewater discharge. And that is from the city of Stillwater, the community, as well as Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State
uses it. I don't think I knew that.
Yes.
So all the wastewater sewage. Mm-hmm. Is there a difference?
No.
We'll ask Jason.
Why don't we?
We'll ask Jason.
He's the expert, right?
All right. Okay, so what else do they do? I learned something already. I'm excited.
So they are heavily regulated and mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, and the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, or here again, we love acronyms around here.
Yes.
The ODEQ, or DEQ for short.
Mm-hmm.
They operate and maintain a 10 million gallon a day
wow, I like that.
Activated sludge treatment facility. And then we can get into what they do with the sludge when it's treated.
Well, great, we'll talk about sludge.
Yes, we will.
All right, that's a first for me. Okay, welcome, Jason. Have you ever listened to our podcast before?
Thanks, of course.
Of course, I like that. Yes, we've had some of your staff members on recently. We had Kelly Hitch and we had Thomas Novotny, and they kind of walked us through the water treatment plant and the distribution lines. So now we're at the other end of the water distribution system.
That's right, guys. It's a pretty big cycle, starting with our raw water source. Of course, Thomas, those guys make that into drinking water and distribute it to our homes. You think about all the things that you use water for. Washing dishes, washing clothes, taking showers, and of course, flushing the commode. So everything that use the water for, it goes to Kelly's collection system, and it makes its way to the wastewater treatment plant.
All right, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So, but for us to get started, we're going to do a lightning round, and we're going to ask you some random but revealing questions. Are you ready?
I am.
I am. He is ready.
Okay,
right.
so, and y'all, everybody that, when I'm a co-host on here, you all know that I have to throw in a surpriser.
Yeah,
so, even though you selected questions.
She doesn't follow the rules.
No, not at all. No, and I'm not a rule breaker. I'm a rule setter.
There you go.
So just play on my team, and we set all the rules.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yes, I know you are. What are you going to be this year for Halloween? It is October, by the way.
So one of the guys told me the other day, we walked in, we're having to do our social distancing and our mask, and so the black mask I have with me, he told me I look like I was a character from Mortal Kombat, which apparently is a video game. So I'm thinking just a few small alterations, maybe a helmet or something. I can go with Mortal Kombat because I'm already halfway there.
You're halfway there. I see it. We'll have
Excellent.
to post
Pictures.
a picture, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
Halloween
Pictures of city employees in their Halloween costumes. Not
You're a
at work,
bold woman,
just-
Paula.
Yes, I am. Next one. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Has to be.
Yeah.
Just, I know you think about the way the movie's made and all the little small details in it. Like James Stewart when he's a kid, he hits that machine in the drugstore and I want $1 million, and just you wonder if the actors come up with that stuff or if that was actually part of the script.
Because it seems so natural.
It does,
Yeah.
and just
It's a deep movie.
it is, and then of course the storyline of seeing what the world would be like without your hard work or your influence on the community.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful storyline.
It really is.
That-
And it's kind
definitely
of
it's a wonderful
sad. It's kind of a sad Christmassy movie, but that leaves you feeling warm on the inside. I mean, in the end, it's not sad, but it does take a dark turn.
And there's a lot of opportunity to laughter in the movie too.
It is true.
Yeah, it's a well-rounded movie. You get just about everything in it. You wouldn't
You
get
get
Mortal
Clarence.
Kombat, but
You get Clarence.
yeah, you do
Ding,
get
ding.
Clarence. Okay, final one. If you could live in any period of history, when would it be and why?
I would say the early 1800s. So like Lewis and Clark expedition, that time period. And the reason being, if you guys have ever flown to California or anywhere across the nation like that, just from a window seat, you see what the country looks like, and it's all divided up. There's circles where irrigation goes on, and everything's divided by highways and fence lines. So 1804 to 1806, travel up the Mississippi and make a turn towards the left coast. I would love to see what the United States looks like back then.
With no development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those
So
developers.
So you'd be one of them swinging the axe and the hatchet, cutting down the trees, making the path for the westward expansion.
Hopefully I'd be with the one that was telling the guys to do that. So.
Always the supervisor. Awesome. So welcome, Jason, and we're going to be talking all wastewater and sludge. I'm really excited about that, actually. I never get to use the word sludge. So anyway, awesome. So why don't we start off with your career path? How does one get into the wastewater treatment field?
So I kind of stumbled into it. My undergraduate's in biology, and so I went to work in East Texas right after college, and it kind of happened to be a position at a water treatment plant. It was kind of the first job I stumbled into, and with that, it was with a private company at the time, and so 4 or 5 years working as a water treatment operator. I advanced my license and got a position as a project manager in northern Oklahoma, in Bartlesville, if you will. But and so with that, I stayed with this company about 12 years. I went back to school, earned my master's degree in environmental science from OSU, and now I'm AA certified from DEQ, water and wastewater, and traveled around. I think about 8 years now. 8 years ago, I was in Stillwater for a brief amount of time, and then had an opportunity to go to Austin, Texas. And 7 years in Austin, I was really eager to get back to Stillwater and pick up where I left off. So
Awesome. I guess I've never really given a whole lot of thought, like what all you could do with a biology major, but obviously taking care of these DEQ type of regulations, and it's chemicals, it's science. It makes a whole lot of sense that you would end up in a job like that, or you could go that direction.
Sure, and that's the major difference between water treatment and wastewater treatment. A great deal of the water treatment is actually a chemical process where you settle the solids out using a coagulant, and where the wastewater treatment is primarily a biological process.
Yeah.
So the waste stream comes in high in nutrients, and we actually use microbes to digest the nutrients coming in the water, and help settle it out, producing for all intents purposes, a nutrient-free water that goes back to the receiving stream, in which we know that a nutrient-rich water would produce algal blooms, and which in turn would kill fish, and that's what we're preventing.
Kind of the circle of life going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point, because we had talked about earlier the supply from Caw Lake that comes in
Right.
for our drinking water, goes through that treatment process through the distribution system, and it is treated drinking water that gets flushed through your toilet and goes then to the wastewater treatment plant, and the treatment process is there to discharge it back into the natural environment.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just this whole process. And it is very interesting to me that there are people who, they specialize in this. For someone like me, we don't give it any thought. The water comes on, the water leaves. I'm happy. But all of the thought and planning that goes into it, it doesn't just happen. There's a lot of activity and a lot of people taking care of it. So what's a typical day for you?
So, typical day at the wastewater plant. We start every morning 7 a.m. I've got 10 positions at the wastewater treatment plant, including myself. And first thing I like to do is bring all the guys together. Of course, we socially distance, and so the conference room's out, and we do more of a lobby type meeting now. But my lab guys, my maintenance guys, and my operators, we put everybody in the same room. The operations guys, they're going around the plant, checking equipment, taking samples, and being sure everything's operating. Cleaning is a large part of that. Maintenance guys, these guys work usually in two different directions. One, they do preventative maintenance to keep the equipment in best shape possible, and but things do break, and they also do corrective maintenance. And so as the operators are out doing their daily rounds and they notice something not quite right, it goes into a work order system, and maintenance will get on that. Now we've also got I've got 2 full-time lab guys, and the lab guys are analyzing the water from the time it comes in the plant to the time it's discharged to the stream, and all the processes in between. And so in the morning, I've got the lab guys there with all the numbers from the previous day, and then we discuss how everything's going. It's called a process control meeting. And so we look at our solids content of our microbes, basically a population count, and we decide whether the population is getting a little high, which will cause bad things to happen, or if it's a little low, then you're not getting the nutrient removal you need. So we're monitoring every level and keeping everything balanced, if you will. I mean, this is the wastewater plant's a life support system for these microbes. So we discuss that, what processes, what equipment needs to be fixed, maintained, changed, and we wrap that up in about 15 minutes, and then we're off to institute the plan.
Wow. But you're right, it's a lot of checks and balances and just keeping things moving.
And so with that, a large say the operator's job. We talked about the microbes. In the system, well, the microbes die. If they have a short life, they die. We settle them out in the clarifier, and we pump them to a digester, which essentially sterilizes them, if you will, and then the end product is sludge, which is essentially fertilizer.
Okay.
And so the wastewater facility, here in Stillwater, we're very fortunate in that we've got over 300 acres in our own land application sites. A lot of the facilities I've worked at where we've actually done land application, we're dependent on finding farmers that want the sludge for hay production or
So you would move it to a different place?
absolutely, and when you're talking about moving, you're talking about cost. It's cost to load it, cost to process it in a dry form that you can haul it, and then maybe 10, 12 miles down the road, offload it, and then incorporate it into the soil. So big money in transportation cost. Where our facility, like I said, everything's right there surrounding the plant, over 300 acres, and I can load up the sludge truck, and these guys go straight to the field, no travel down the highway or anything like that, and we inject into the land, which we take samples of the sludge before it goes into the land, and then we monitor the soil with sending samples to OSU and get a fertilizer recommendation from those guys. So everything's monitored real close. We rotate fields, and we're essentially doing hay production.
Huh. Things you don't think about.
Yeah, so how's the yield on the hay?
It's going to be in the neighborhood of I think 8 to 10 tons per acre. What we're having to do right now is working really hard to remove the Johnson grass, and so we're in the process of really getting the fields cleaned up.
Johnson grass likes nutrients too, doesn't it?
And it loves nitrogen, and that's one of the things you have to avoid with land application sites is the Johnson grass will super concentrate the nitrogen, and so I've got to get all the Johnson grass out of the fields before we can actually go into hay production where we're creating a product.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with the hay? Do you sell it? So we're in the haymaking business?
We're farmers too.
We're
That's-
farmers.
That's my goal. That's where I
Ah.
want to do this. So, I want to create a situation where we're as sustainable as possible.
Right.
So think about what we do. We take nutrients from the wastewater, we inject it in the soil. The hay, the weeds that are out there now, they absorb the nutrients, and then if you're producing hay and selling it as a product, you're removing the nutrients. If you're just cutting down the weeds and they're being reincorporated into the soil, you're punting, and because later on those the weeds and stuff will biodegrade and add nutrients right back to the soil. So
That is awesome.
so I'm trying to get everything in a position so that we're sustainable, and we're help recovering some of the cost of fuel and farm equipment. We're already saving a ton by not going to the landfill with this stuff, which a lot of communities do.
Oh.
But we
It's
really
very green. Just
Yeah,
so that
it
is
is.
fascinating.
Continues that
It
cycle
does.
of
Things you don't think about that's going on in your city government.
right.
Innovations and just sustainable processes that benefit all of us.
Yeah, it's not just getting your sewage and making sure it's not gonna, contaminate or harm something downstream, but it's also being responsible as an
Right.
entity to have something giving back to where you can get more so you can give again, kind of.
Awesome. I am very impressed with that whole thing. I'd not heard about the haymaking aspect of what we do. So anyway, that is just really interesting.
So here's a side
Okay.
note, though, Sherry. Jason is a perfect example of you start in a job as superintendent of the wastewater treatment plant, but he's also a farmer, and he's also
Right.
an agriculturalist, and he's also you know,
Yeah.
own and own and own. So the breadth of knowledge that city employees have to have nowadays
Yeah.
is just fascinating.
It really is. And I mean, because I can remember going to the water treatment plant like when I was growing up, and it was a very small, focused activity. And of course, nobody wanted to, not the water treatment, the wastewater.
Wastewater.
Nobody wanted to go to the wastewater treatment plant. And I think that probably colored my thoughts and not advanced my understanding of what the actual process is. And I probably didn't understand at the time that water was being sent somewhere. And so now, to me, it's endlessly fascinating that the cycle of water. So I'm finding the whole thing just really interesting, and the more I learn about it, the more it's like, oh, wow, that is so cool. So what would surprise people about the wastewater treatment plant besides what fascinates me?
I think one of the most surprising things when I have visitors that have never seen a wastewater treatment plant. We get that quite a bit. OSU brings their students out, their engineering students, and we work with them on just help educating the students and show them what a wastewater treatment plant looks like and different things. But they see what comes into the wastewater plant, and then by the end of the tour, we follow the water flow through the plant, and at the end of the tour, they see the product, we're putting out, and it looks the same as you're drinking water.
Right.
It's crystal clear, highly oxygenated. If you walk down to the stream where the water enters the creek, the fish are hanging out there. They love it. It's better water than what's already in the creek.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I think what I need now is photographs of the hayfield and, that whole process, because I think there would be a lot of people who would like to see, because it's so, you're not thinking of it.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to do a video of when they get the sludge, they load it in the truck, and they transport it out to the land where it's applied, and just have a video of that process.
Yeah, it is. It's just so interesting, the innovation of what you don't necessarily think whenever you you flush. Where the whole process. I mean, I think people kind of think, oh yeah, it goes to the treatment plant, it takes care of it, and it goes on. But the whole process is just really interesting.
So here's a plug.
Okay.
So the natural stuff that we flush, that's great. Don't flush your medications.
Right.
Because it's going to mess with the balance that they're trying to maintain up there. Don't flush the hand wipes that you get, like the wet wipes or
even though they
like
say
that.
biodegradable.
Just don't flush them. Throw them in the
They say
trash.
flushable. That means
they say flushable.
Right, and yes, they will flush, but that doesn't mean they go away or dissolve in the wastewater stream. We pull them out of pumps and lift stations. They're on the bar screens, and they go to the same landfill. It's just we're plugging up sewer lines and pumps and everything instead of just throwing them in the trash like they should go.
So here's a fourth question.
Okay.
And this is a professional question for
do
him,
it.
not a personal one. What's the most unusual thing you have found that has been flushed through the system?
So
they get screened and you actually see everything.
yes.
All right. That would be, think carefully before you answer.
I don't know. That's so everything you would think of, everything that you throw in the toilet, of course, everything you put in the dishwashing disposal, or the sink disposal, that all comes to the wastewater treatment.
Your child dropping toys down.
Yes.
So-
or losing your engagement ring.
Oh, yeah.
All this comes to the bar screen at the plant. We've got 2 parallel bar screens. Go down and rake all this stuff up, put it on a conveyor, and throw it in a dumpster. So in Stillwater, I can't say I think probably the weirdest thing I've seen so far is actual tree roots. We had a not something you would expect.
Flush down your toilet? No.
So flush down the
There's a
toilet,
story
no,
there.
but you
There's
know,
a
a
story.
collapsed line.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good indication. So that's one of the reasons we, send the operators out and check the
Yeah.
bar screens. It's like, hey guys, we're getting in a bunch of tree roots. It's time to start walking lines.
Yeah.
Something's going wrong. But I was in Bartlesville, and this was, I don't know, 2006-ish maybe, and lots of rain, and they had to release the dams at Lake Eula and Copan at the same time. So the plant just inches from being totally submerged.
Yeah.
They had to pull the plug, and we got in the next day by flat bottom boat type thing. But after that, we're getting plant back online and doing the recovery of the system, everything. We found, of course, lots of fish in the system, but we were pulling rod and reels out of the bar screen, and how that gets from the river, the creek, and into the system. That's probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen, is the actual fishing pole on the bar screen. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing what actually goes through the wastewater treatment plant.
Because you think it just goes away, but it does not go away. It goes into the system. It's called a system for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and being our guest today. And I think we are going to have to come out and do a field trip and visit, because I want to see this process, because like I said, I think it's just endlessly fascinating, the innovation going on out there. So, was there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to share with our listeners?
No, thank you. I've enjoyed being here.
All right. Well, we'll bring you back. Whenever you get the hay, come and get us. Tell us, and we're going to have another podcast, and we're going to talk about it some more.
Okay.
All right.
Great time to see. We're getting into the ground. Last summer, we got our sprigged field day, and so we're establishing Bermuda in it. And I've got Bermuda in some of the fields from previous years, but so we're really getting aggressive and turn this thing around and trying to make a sustainable unit here.
Awesome. I just love it. All right. Well, thanks again, and we're going to call you back.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Paul, it's time to move to the mailbox.
Well, let's do it.
All right. So the city gets questions in a lot of different formats. Social media, website, even some phone calls. Today's question is from Steve on Facebook, and it's a pretty simple one, but a really popular question among our residents is, how do I get rid of yard waste?
That is an excellent question. And this time of year, folks are, they're outside a little more because the weather's cooler. It's
Right.
not so hot and restrictive for them from that standpoint.
And the leaves are starting to
And
fall.
the leaves are falling, yes. So first, let's talk about what yard waste is. It's also called green or vegetative waste. It includes grass, leaves, sticks, branches, brush, other yard debris, and, with the holidays coming up, live Christmas trees.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
the artificial ones, but
The
live
live
Christmas
ones.
trees, yes.
Because that is yard waste.
It is, yeah, it is. So there's two ways to have your yard waste disposed of. First is curbside. So the city actually goes out and picks up yard waste on the same day as your trash and recycling.
Right.
There are restrictions on the size that, say, tree branches. That type of yard waste should be cut into the lengths and the poundage. It can be collected as early as 6 a.m., which may be different from your trash or your recycling
Because it's a
collection
different
time.
vehicle.
It's a different vehicle, right. So make sure you have it out there. Collection is limited to 10 bags, and each one of them has to be under 35 pounds total. You can put it in cardboard, but We're not encouraging that
Because
for
it
the
can get wet and
cardboard.
everything fall out.
Yeah, and then you've contaminated the yard waste with the cardboard. So let's say don't use cardboard.
Yeah.
You can put it in your trash container, but it won't necessarily go to be recycled. If it is recyclable, it'll just go directly to the landfill if it's in the in the trash container. The second option is to drop it off at our convenience collection center, and that's the center that's located on South Perkins Road.
Right, off of 8th.
Yes. So you need to bring your City of Stillwater utility bill, because you need to prove that you get utility service from the City of Stillwater. You need an ID. You're allowed 1 truckload of yard waste per day.
Oh my, can you imagine? More than one?
Commercial yard waste is not collected at the center, just
Right,
your
'cause this is-
residential.
Because this is really just for residents.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so those are the 2 ways that you can dispose of it: curbside, and then drop it off at the collection center. All of this information is available on our website at stillwater.org.
That's right. There's a lot of information, especially for the utilities. If you go to stillwater.org and you click on government, you can go to the utilities tab, and everything about wastewater, water treatment, electric, trash, yard waste, all of it is contained right there. So there's a lot of things. If you've not been to it, it's a really good resource.
Yes, so thanks to him for putting in his question, and hope he investigates and sees what else is out there on the city's website when he gets to looking.
Because there's really a lot of services out for the public, and there's a lot of things going on. So by tuning into this podcast, you find out of innovation out at the wastewater treatment plant.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being my co-host again, Paula.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to FYI Stillwater. If you like this episode, help us out and give us a like or share us with your friends.
Stay tuned for our next podcast.
If you have a question for City Hall, email news@stillwater.org, and in the next podcast, we'll answer a few of them. FYI Stillwater is available on our website at stillwater.org, Spotify, and just about anywhere else you enjoy your podcast.